Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. So in this video we will be doing the first 60 type of thing. We're going to be discussing Athel, Gallic, Kael and Alan, and just going over each champion individually for any new player to the game, or just if you're looking for information on that certain champion, where they're good, what's good about their kit, what's bad about it, whether they have viability later on in the game, as far as even clan boss end game and so on. So first and foremost, we're gonna take a look at one champion. We need to go to the index, and that champion that we're gonna take a look at is Athel. So when you begin the game, you can maybe pick Athel as your first champion. Your first champion primarily will be your first 6-star champion, so you have to weigh in upon choosing your champion whether you want to take them to 60. But obviously that's on you, on your account. But overall, Athel or Athel, she's a chick. She's okay. She does have some buffs. She does have a pretty good base speed at 104. She requires 11 books, which randomly is less than other champions, but they are rare. She has, I think it's her A2, she has an AoE, which if you did 60 her, I wouldn't really see her being anywhere other than campaign and maybe early arena. So the AoE means you could potentially put in a stun set or anything that works well with AoE hits. And you only have to build her to 85% crit rate, because you will get that extra 15% chance. So having that little bit of leeway in the start of the game, that 15% crit rate could be HP, defense, crit damage, could be a speed substat. So it might be okay. Now she does do okay damage. Her A1 is a multi-hitter, which if you do choose her, you can take her potentially to Fire Knight. The weaken is really good. This is the only starter champion to have a weaken, which means it's extra 15-25% damage. Cannot remember the number, but it's a 3-hitter. So to have a 3-hitter for an A1 is extremely strong. Let's take a look at the A3. What does it say? Higher Blessing. Now, she will place an attack buff on herself. And quite frankly, I'm not, like Karen S does the same thing. I'm not hugely into champions that just buff themselves. I know it's a beginner champion or a starter champion, but come on, just increase attack on all allies. Simple. So you'll get the increased attack buff, which means she will be doing more damage. So if you can get, it's a small 25% increased attack, but still, she's going to buff her attack a little bit, meaning you'll get a small extra bit of damage. As you'll place increased defense for 2 turns if she's got HP less than 50%. The good thing about this is you will get an extra turn, so even though it's a 4-turn cooldown, it's actually a 3-turn cooldown, which means you can cycle this even quicker. All starter champions have a HP auras, so we're not really, like, there isn't any aura that's better than the other one, but having a weaken on an A1, multi-hitter, AoE on the A2, and some buffs on the A3 makes it okay. And I've also, it's extremely random, but I've heard of people putting her into toxic sets, so they can have the AoEs, they can have the weaken and poison. Being a starter champion, you're potentially going to also take this champion into clan boss, so that is something to think about. But that's Athel. Let's take a look at, we need to get out of here. We need to go into orcs, and we need to find the peoples not sure if he's the favourite, but this is Garlic. Now he has a multi-hitter on his A1, but it's just attack one enemy 2 times. Not good, just kind of boring. AoE, 15% chance to place a crit, so again 85% crit rate, but he does bring an increased speed buff on himself, which means you can build him a little bit slower. You can't book the cooldown, you can only book it for more damage, but the increased speed is actually quite nice. Is a 4 hitter on the A3, 40% chance placing a small version decreased defense, then has a 40% chance of placing it if the target has more than 2 debuffs, so situational on the big version, not a big fan of it. The speed's a bit worse than Athel. Like I say, the orders are all the same. The A2 is kind of cool, you get increased speed. The A1 is just not really that good as a starter champion in an arena in farming early campaign. I mean, that's maybe potentially the use that you will have for him. I'm just trying to think of good things to say about him, to be fair. I mean, he's got a bit of AoE damage, he's got increased speed, you can build him a bit slower. I don't like the A1. The A3 is kind of situational, but if you pick him, it's just 85% crit and he does a bit of damage. He is a champion that you're probably going to replace at some point, but he is also a starter champion, so in the beginning of the game you have the option whether you want to choose him or not. Some people have said Garlic's okay, some people have said he's extremely crappy. Now, hi Elves, we are going to potentially the 2 better of the beginner champions, 2 more used champions, and we have Elhain, who has some utility. She can do a bit of damage, but she lacks debuffs. So let's take a look at the A1. Attacks when enemy, places an extra hit if it's a crit. So give her 100% crit rate, you'll get an extra hit, but yeah, again, still situational. A very early account is not going to have access to full crit rate. With A2, attacks one person, then attacks all enemies, 15%, cannot book up that chance. So 85% crit rate in the build for this champion, and she will increase crit rate on herself for 3 turns if she kills someone. So that brings it to 55% crit rate. So less if you look at the masters that you can throw on. Easier to build for a newer game account, just due to the fact this will give herself increased crit rate. It kind of helps, given the fact that you're only going to have 1, 2, 3 star gear, and you should have been using any of that really. Value of Death, AoE, so potential for stun sets, potential for, I've seen Toxic as well, potential because Clan Boss are going to need something just for the extra bit of damage. It's only an AoE, she lacks debuffs, and it's just kind of, it's a bit silly in a sense that there's nothing, she doesn't put on a small decreased defense, she doesn't put on a small decreased attack, stun, provoke. She just has an extra hit if it's a critical hit, but very early on you might not have. The lightning arrow, she gives herself increased crit rate, means you can be extremely flexible with the build. I mean, it does make it a little bit viable if you kind of have a mid-game account, you want damage. I have seen savage builds of this champion. They can do over 100k in arena, just absolutely wipes out teams. The viability for faction mods with this champion in a stun set is extremely strong. The aura's the same. She does have a really good base speed at 107, the best of all the starter champions. Decent attack, decent HP. She was my starter champion. I thought she was kind of cool. But she, like I say, she does lack debuffs. If you pick Alan, you're just picking her for the chance to get an extra turn, the crit rate buff, and you're picking her just for the AoE, so you can use some faction wars in a stun set or provoke, whatever, kind of how you want to build her. Over Athel and Gallic, definitely say this champion is slightly better, but it depends on yourself and who you kind of want to choose. So that is the third of the starter champions. Now the last of the 4 champions we're going to discuss here is the People's Champion, probably the most picked and the most used rare of all new players that quit after 30 days. And that is, where is he? My friend, the Dark Elf, Kael. Now, Kael is widely regarded as the best starter champion, mainly for a few reasons. Base speed is decent. He does have good utility. He's got debuffs, he's got damage, he's got clan boss potential, he's got in-game potential. He does take 14 books, which is a lot more than everybody else, but he's slightly better than everybody else. So that isn't that bad. A1, let's have a quick look. Tournament position, I'm not doing anything. His A1 has a chance that he can make 100%, which is pretty good, of placing a 2.5% poison debuff for 2 turns. Good for a clan boss. Even hits quite hard in campaign. Good in arena early, just to throw poisons to melt other champions. Acid Drain AoE, again, AoEs can bring viability to certain gear sets, especially for faction wars. There's a 15% chance of inflicting a crit, so you can build them to 85%. You start with 15, make it 5 from Master Raise, you do the maths. And he fills the turn meter of this champion by 25% for each enemy killed. So build him with some damage, he will get turn meter manipulation, essentially making his 3 turn cooldown potentially a 2. If there's 4 enemies, he kills all 4, he's effectively getting another turn really fast because he's getting 100% turn meter. Let's take a look at his A3, which is Disintegrate, which is a 4 hitter. So if you did pick this champion, we said he's got good utility. He's a good campaign farmer for sure, 6 seconds. Poisons are good because they're in clan boss, you can take him in arena. You can take him in all the dungeon bosses. He gives himself turn meter if he kills people, which up until a certain point, the enemies get more HP, but it's still useful, because your gear will also progress with him as you play him. He does have good damage. Endgame potential is definitely in favour of this champion. So attacks 4 times at random, 40% chance, goes to 50, of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. That's on each hit. So he's got 4 chances to land 4 poisons. If you land 4 poisons on somebody in arena, you put 4 up on clan boss, you're going to increase your damage exponentially. And that's kind of what Kael does. He is just known as being a toxic, vile beast of a champion early game. If you see him in arena early game, then run away, he's scary. But yeah, his endgame potential is higher than everybody else. You can put him in stun sets and provoke sets, but if you go damage, you're good because you will get turn meter on the A2, as we see here if you kill someone, so you can do savage, crit damage, etc. Early game, you're going to just go lifesteal, but he has a poison on his A1, which means he brings a debuff. Another debuff could be Athel, but nobody else really has the poisons. The A2 is good because it's an AoE. Extra chance to give himself 100% crit rate because he's got that 15% chance to begin with. He'll get turn meter if he kills someone. 4 hits at random. Each time he can place a 5% poison. That means that he is extremely useful in clan boss. Now if it's your starter champion, your first 60, the first champion that you choose, it will definitely be in your clan boss team. And when it comes to early clan boss teams, Kael is kind of the king. And I have seen and I have used Kael in clan boss all the way up to my nightmare team. where he was still rocking quite a bit of damage. And it's due to the fact that he has turn meter, he has poisons, he has like 50% chance to give a crit, etc. And his decent speed. It is the reason that he is widely regarded as the best starter champion, because he does bring a lot of utility, with the most utility. He just has more viability passing on, the quickest campaign farmer of the four. You know, really good damage. You can find a lot of videos on Kayle online. But that is pretty much the 4 starter champions: Athel, Gallic, Elaine and Kayle. This is information for you about them, so hope it was useful. We're going to just cut it here. For any new players, it's really up to yourself who you choose and how you use them. But like I said, the information, wanted to just put it out there. These champions, although they're starter, beginner champions, they are really good, and I still use Kayle to this day. I still use Elaine in my Faction Wars 21. So they do have endgame viability in certain aspects, some more than others. So guys, thanks for watching. We're going to end it right here. I'm going to wish you